There are times as an artist when you find yourself bumping up against walls as you reach a kind of impasse with your work. This can be a regular occurrence and nothing to be afraid of, since it often precedes a period where you are making breakthroughs, exploring more things, and finding new avenues in art. Even if you're working in the same medium, this can lead to new techniques, inspirations, and very new and different results. This is great because no artist enjoys the feeling of their work becoming stagnant, stale, or repetitive. You don't always actively seek this, it usually finds you if you're open to new adventures in your art. New departures often happen when you find you've reached a bit of a cul-de-sac with whatever you're working on and can't push through, though you sense there's something important for you waiting on the other side of whatever obstacle is in your way. If you stay open to this uncomfortable experience of feeling a bit lost, suddenly something new can appear that serves as a map of sorts to guide you through the obstacle and let you access that breakthrough to the solution which you sought, all quite suddenly. It happened for me in this instance recently when I was working away at landscapes, but kept feeling I needed to get somehow more sculptural in my paintings. But the way I was handling paint to try and solve the problem wasn't working. I was trying to go beyond appearances. I actually did a video about this to something deeper about the texture of landscapes and how that translates into our visual mechanism and how our minds experience the patterns. It was that experience I wanted to capture with paint. I thought about it a lot and thought about how the Impressionists approached this idea. But obviously, I didn't want to replicate what the Impressionists did, even if I was working with the same kind of problem in painting landscapes. I tried various solutions, working my way through the impasse, taking sections of my paintings and blowing them up bigger to work on them again. But still, they lacked the element I wanted in them, which I realised was randomness. It was the random accident in nature and chaotic juxtaposition of elements beside each other, sometimes all jumbled up together, but somehow creating a wonderful pattern with some kind of underlying organisation and harmony implied in the way you read the scene with your eyes and mind. That really was what interested me most. And identifying the problem in painting is halfway to solving it. My organised efforts to paint this phenomenon I was seeing were destroying it because of my technique being too structured or planned. I needed to introduce some element of chaos, purposeful chaos, but still chaos, into my landscapes. So it struck me one day, wouldn't it be great if I could use the paint left on my palette after a day's work as part of the piece? Because that was accidental in a way and had a chaotic feel to it visually without being a total chaos because I'd used it in a planned way for a painting. So each day after working on a piece, I'd scrape the leftover paint off my palette and onto another canvas without worrying about making an image. This was to be the first of what I called my palette paintings. This first one took a few weeks, and it was only when I was nearly out of space on the canvas for putting newly scraped paint from my palette on with the palette knife that I decided it was ready for its finishing touches. I wanted a landscape because I'd been doing landscapes and the colours on my palette had been used for that. And the new painting now looked like a tree and bushes in a jumbled up scene in a way I really liked. It had the built up sculptural look I felt the other paintings had needed. but not in a forced or stilted way. No, this one was a lot fresher, and I felt it was a breakthrough for me, finding this technique which had elements of chaos and of organization too. Chaos in the application of paint, but organization in the colours used. I started another in the same way, but stopping with putting leftover paint on a bit earlier in the process because I could see another landscape emerging, almost completed, after I'd put on a few loads of scraped palette paint over the course of a week or two. I did more painting to complete this one to see if I could keep the spontaneity going while painting, and ended up with these misty fields and trees viewed from above, which only exist in my mind and are an interpretation of the meaning of those initial paint blobs, informed by my experiences of all the fields I'd painted, but like a dream of previous landscapes instead of a particular one I'd painted from life. Were there other projects since these first in the palette painting series? Yes, there have been other projects, other ideas, that is, that form a sort of series of paintings. One idea is to work on top of an old diary notebook, obliterating what's already written there with various collage and multimedia elements. The other part of this Fear of Purple series has been about making paintings and drawings on the colour theme of purple, which acts as a kind of metaphor for what Carl Jung referred to as the shadow. These works explore hidden or difficult to contact parts of the psyche and unconscious associated with fears or worries. They lean into discomfort to push through to understanding, but sit with not knowing long enough for the viewer to sit with feeling slightly lost before finding interesting things which it's hoped will uplift or delight. Art, for the painter and the viewer, can bring you to places where you feel lost, but somehow it gives you enough for you to be able to find something new. And this is why artists are always willing to explore and trying to break through.